your seats and settle down. We are about to begin the program. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon. It is my privilege to welcome you all here at the Maynila Ballroom of the Manila Hotel for the automated counting machine demonstration for diplomatic corps and other stakeholders. To begin, may I please invite everyone to stand for the Philippine National Anthem and ecumenical prayer to be led by the Comelec Chorale. Please be seated, everyone. Thank you very much. Before anything else, allow me to acknowledge our distinguished guests who took the time off their busy schedule to be with us this afternoon. We are very pleased to have with us from the Embassy of Brunei Darussalam, Her Excellency Megawati Manan. From the Embassy of the Federative Republic of Brazil, His Excellency Gilberto Fonseca Guimarães de Moura. From the Embassy of Malaysia, His Excellency Abdul Malik Elvin Castellino. From the Embassy of Ukraine, Her Excellency Yulia Fedin. From the Embassy of the State of Palestine, His Excellency Roni Y.K. Tesla. We also have honorable attendees from the Embassy of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, William Grover. From the Embassy of Canada, Kajal Tiwari. From the Embassy of the People's Republic of Thailand, Ian Smith. From the Embassy of the Delegation of the European Union, Frederick Grillis. From the Embassy of the French Republic, John Labus. From the Embassy of the Republic of Village Narvan. From the Embassy of the Republic of Israel, State of Israel, Nelly Booker. From the Embassy of Japan, Mikhail Pilipoye. From the Embassy of Malaysia, Ahmad Zaman Mort Asarani and Nur Faralisa Putih Yazid. From the Embassy of the Republic and on, An Yu Kian. From the Kingdom of Norway, Maria Gutierrez. From the Embassy of the Russian Federation, from the Embassy of the Republic of Singapore, Magabentan Karupanan, the Republic of Singapore, Magabentan Karupanan. From the Embassy of the Pedro Rafael Pagana. From the Embassy of the United Arab Emirates, Maria Manuel. From the Embassy of the Republic of Romania, Nigeria Kati. From the Embassy of the Republic of Kofi Arlaguti, Bhutan. We also have a drama, the CFA. My apologies, I did not shoot at the We also have from the Vice Chairperson of the DFA, Mr. Robert. From the Commission on Audit, we have Ms. Colleen Dayan Reyes and Carl John de Guzman. From the National Secretary, the election, Manila, we have Ms. Elect various groups. From the Palace National Council for Responsible Voting, or Chairperson Evelyn R. Simpson. From the Legal Network for Civil Elections, or National Director for Electoral and Local Policy, Helen Wright. From the Commission on Elections, we have the Bank with Chairman George and Garcia. Commissioner Rudy. Commissioner Ray P. Van. Commissioner Ernesto Ferdinand Jr. Commissioner Nelson A. Sessions. Commissioner Maria Medina Maro Casino. Commissioner Donnie R. We also have with us at the offices from the offices of the Commission, everyone, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we are down to just anticipated of 2025 national and local elections. So, to give us updates on the ongoing preparations for the 2025 midterm elections, let me please call the Deputy Executive Director for Operations of the Commission on Elections, Dedo Rafael B. Olanio.
Thank you, Attorney Bianca. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am tasked to present to you an overview of the preparations for the May 12, 2025 elections, national and local elections, as well as the BARM parliamentary elections. I purposely did not delete the BARM parliamentary election thing because, according to the law, Republic Act 12123, the BARM parliamentary elections to be held on October 13 this year is only a continuation of these May 12, 2025 elections. So we will be discussing the national and local elections as well as the preparations for the BARM parliamentary elections. Next, please. So as stated by Attorney Bianca, we have barely 34 days to go before the actual elections. So, next to our elections is the most or the biggest activity in the country where we mobilize every citizen, every agency of the government just for the purpose of this election. And just like war, we will also be preparing for this election. In fact, the preparation for this election did not happen in just 1 or 2 years. For us, election preparation is a cycle which happens every 3 years because we have elections every 3 years, national and local elections. So we start our preparations with the registration of voters, which for the national officials, national candidates, happen 90 days before election. And for the local candidates, it's half of that. 45 days before elections. So after campaigning, of course, we will have the E-Day, the election day wherein the voters will vote in every cluster precincts and the votes will be counted, consolidated, and the winners will be proclaimed. After the proclamation of winners, the next step would be for those who are aggrieved by the results, they can file post-election remedies, just like election protest or other pre-proclamation cases which are allowed under the law. Then, of course, after that, we assess our performance and then we go back to the registration of voters. For this election, our registration of voters produced 68.4 million registered voters. These are spread in 37,000 voting centers and 93,287 clustered precincts. For the filing of the certificates of candidacy, the available positions which are at stake numbered to 18,320 positions. That is from senators down to party lists and then down to the lowest level of the political rank, which is municipal sangguniang bayan members. Of these 18,320 available positions, more than a double of that filed their certificates of candidacy. So more or less there will be many people who will be after May 12, 2025 elections will be of course lonely and crying because most of them will lose in the election. Next, please. So during election period, which happens 120 days before election, the most important activity or event that happens during election period is the gun ban prohibition. So 120 days before elections, we already ban the carrying of firearms as well as other deadly weapons and explosives. So why do we do that? In order to ensure that 120 days before elections, there will be less violence using the other modes to perpetuate violence during elections. So in order to prevent or at least to minimize violence during election, as early as 120 days, we already ban the carrying of firearms and other deadly weapons and explosives. Along with the ban on transfer on explosives and carrying of firearms, we also ban the transfer of civil service employees. What is the reason behind that? Because most often than not, civil service employees are threatened or harassed by reassignment if they do not follow a certain political agenda. So in order to prevent or at least to minimize the harassment of civil service employees, the law make it an illegal act for any civil service employees to be transferred during this period of election. Another ban on the civil service employees' activities would be the ban on the suspension of elective local officials. Similar to the reason behind the ban on the transfer of civil service employees, the law also prohibits the suspension of elective officials. This is also to prevent the harassment of these elective officials if they do not follow a certain political party or a certain candidate, and to make all these civil service employees as impartial as possible. The only exception to the ban on the suspension of elective officials would be if the suspension would be on the ground of graft and corruption. So if the ground for the suspension is graft and corruption, the suspension of an elective official will be allowed. Next, please. Now, here is the most interesting parties with political party. So imagine 3 pesos per voter. If in a certain municipality, the voter is 10,000, at this time, wherein social media, newspapers, television, radio can be used for campaigning, and they are very expensive. That amount, 3 pesos per voter, is very minimal. Why is that? It's because our law, the BP 881, was approved and in existence as old as 1985. So we are really asking Congress to increase the minimum spending amount. However, up to now, we have not yet the minimum spending amount per voter is increased. Hopefully, by next year or by next elections, this 3 pesos per voter limit will be increased. Next, please. So campaigning, as I have said earlier, can be done through posters which should be not more than 2 by 3 feet in diameter or in volume. Candidates can also use newspapers. However, there is a limitation on the use of the newspapers for the campaigning. They can only use 1/4 page in broadsheet and 1/2 page in tabloid. And the tabloid or the newspapers wherein the campaign materials are published should be done only thrice a week. With respect to radio, the candidates can also use the radio for their campaign. However, there is also a limitation with respect to the minutes. 180 minutes for national candidates and 90 minutes for local candidates. How about the television? Yes, candidates can also use the television for their campaign. However, we also put a limit on their campaigning in television. That would be 120 minutes for national candidates and 60 minutes for local candidates. And by the way, these minutes are per station, not cumulative. Next, please. This election, in previous elections, we have banned the use of billboard, 2 months of exposure in the billboards. As for the frequency, that would be not more than 2 months for the candidates, and distance. For the distance, it should not be within 1 kilometer of each other. So that would be the limitation for the outdoor advertisement for the national candidates. For the local candidates, that would be not more than 1 month of exposure or publication, and then not within 500 meters of each other. So billboards are already allowed, provided that this frequency as well as the radius or kilometers from each other are observed during campaigning. Next, please. So on election day, we will have a national implementation of the early voting procedure. Our regular voting in previous elections happened only from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. However, we have observed that during those periods, our PWDs, our persons with disabilities, our voters who are senior citizens, and the pregnant have difficulty in queuing during elections. Although we have a priority line for them, still they are mixed with the other regular voters who are not senior citizens or those who have no disabilities. So for these elections, the Commission deemed it wise to have an early voting exclusively for these sectors. So this early voting would happen from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. So these 2 hours would be devoted exclusively for them, for the PWDs, for the persons with disabilities, for the senior citizens, and for the pregnant, as well as their assistors, because some senior citizens need assistors in voting, so we also included them in the early voting activity for these coming elections. So hopefully this would be a very successful endeavor for us, because we have already piloted them in the barangay elections, and the feedback during the barangay elections was that the early voting was a success, and therefore we have already made it an institutional for this coming election. Next, please. Another feature of these elections would be mall voting. So our usual voting centers are the schools, elementary schools, public schools, spread all over the country. However, most of these schools are not conducive for voting, especially for those the vulnerable sectors, the persons with disabilities, the senior citizens, and of course, the regular voters. So we deem it wise also to have an agreement with the malls all over the country. So we have 42 malls who agreed to have their place be the voting centers for some places in the country. So in these malls, a part of their event centers or a part of their rooms and other areas in the malls will be used as voting centers for us. So we expect that during the mall voting, the voters will have a very convenient and comfortable experience and vote in voting. Because we have also piloted this in the barangay elections, and the voters during the barangay elections where they voted in the malls have only one complaint. The malls is very cold. Other than that, their voting was very convenient. They experienced a very comfortable manner of voting. And so we have also deemed it wise to make the mall voting national in nature. That means all over the country, there will be mall votings. For now, at least we have 42 malls spread from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Next, please. In previous elections, we have this problem of some of the electoral boards who are teachers would not appear, would not serve during the elections. So it happened in Cotabato City in previous elections, wherein all the electoral boards did not appear on election day, so no one would conduct the election in the voting centers in the cluster precincts. However, during that time, we have made a contingency wherein we have trained PNP personnel to act as the electoral board in case the electoral boards, the regular electoral boards, would not appear during elections. So, as a contingency procedure also, replicating what happened in Cotabato City, we have also, and we are also training electoral boards who are members of the Philippine National Police. So this will be the Philippine National Police who are trained as electoral boards will be deployed in cases, in places where the regular electoral boards will not appear for some reason or another during election day. So don't worry, during election day, we will also have a reserve electoral board members in case the regular board members composed of the teachers will not appear. Next, please. So during election day and during the final testing and sealing of the machines, we have what we usually call the National Technical Support Center, or what we call is the call center. This is the center wherein we will control or all the problems during that would happen or that would occur during election will be sent, and then will be given solutions by the National Technical Support Center. These are sort of a call center, and these are manned by technical personnel who has the technical know-how to solve the problems during election. So during, in case there are problems during elections, the teachers, the support staff, and the electoral boards can call the National Technical Support Center, and they can have their problems resolved through the National Technical Support Center. We will also have 110 technical hubs spread all over the country. What are the uses of these technical hubs? In these technical hubs, we will have the repair hubs, wherein all the machines that may be defective or that will have problems will be repaired. So in these technical hubs, our provider have assigned at least 2 technical persons who are capable of repairing our machines. In addition, they will also place at least 10 contingency machines in these technical hubs in case the machines being used by the voting centers will not be working properly. So in case they are not repaired, they have at least 10 available ACM machines as contingency to be used in case of defective machines. And these hubs are located in each of the provinces of the country. And some of these hubs, and we have 82 provinces, some of these hubs are also located in the other parts of the country. Some provinces have 3 hubs, especially those who are big and like Cebu and Palawan, but then also the island provinces like Tawi-Tawi. We have also placed at least 3 hubs therein so that they can have a very convenient and easy way of repairing the hubs. Also in the technical hubs, we will also have the configuration hub wherein the machines or the USB which will be used in the machines will be configured. So in case the machines as well as the USBs are found out to be defective during election period, we have at least 110 machines, 110 hubs wherein they can be repaired and the USB can be reconfigured. So we will all have these contingencies in order to address any anomalies, any problems which may happen in the machines as well as in the USB. Next, please. So our automated election system is composed of the automated counting machines, the transmission, as well as the internet voting. And this, we have 3 providers for each of these components. For the ACMs, for the counting machines, we have the Miru. For the transmission, we have the I1 resources. And for the overseas internet voting, our provider is the Sequel. So all these automated system will have undergone the usual testing, the usual certification, and hopefully they will be working properly this coming elections. So that's for the updates for the coming elections. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dede Rafael Biolano, for a comprehensive discussion on the efforts that are being exerted by the Commission for the 2025 midterm elections, and also for giving us an overview of election policies, as well as guidelines and innovations. Before we proceed to the next presentation, let me acknowledge some of our other honorable attendees. From the Embassy of New Zealand, we have with us Second Secretary David Pennycook. From the Embassy of the Republic of Korea, we have the Counselor of Economic Sector, Madam Yoon Jung-jung, and First Secretary Yoon Tae-song. And also from the British Embassy, we have Madam Christine Borja, the head of the political team. The Commission on Elections adopted the full automation system with transparency auditor count, most commonly known as Fast Track, for more streamlined, innovative, fast, and efficient elections. Let us learn more about Fast Track through a presentation to be given by the Director 4 of the Information Technology Department of the Commission on Elections. Everyone, please welcome Director Jeannie V. Florita.
Good, af- Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present the full automation system with the transparency audit count fast track for a short term. This is the systems that we're going to implement on the 12 May 2025 national and local elections. Next, please. Just for quick statistics, in the Philippines, we have 18 regions. Now it's 82 provinces. We have 1,642 cities and municipalities. We have 37,000 polling centers and 93,629. These statistics are important in the automation of the national and local elections. Next, please. In 2024, the Commission on Election lists 110 ACMs. This ACM includes the modem. The modem will allow the ACM, or the automated counting machine, to transmit the results from the ACM to the next level of canvassing, which is the city municipal. The battery allows the continuous operation of the ACM. In case the area has no power, it can operate up to more than 14 hours. It also includes the thermal paper, which will be used in printing the reports by the ACM. Also included is the smart cards. This allows the secure access by the electoral board to the ACM. It also includes the USB, which will contain the configuration of each ACM, and the marking pen, which will be used by the voter to accomplish the ballot. Out of the 110 ACMs, we will use the 93,629 ACMs as main ACM, and this is equivalent to the number of clustered precincts for the May 12, 2025. The remaining 6,371 will be used as contingency in case the ACM malfunction during election day. Next, please. Just an overview of the ACM. The ACM uses paper ballots where the voter has to shade the circle beside the candidate name he has chosen. And then after accomplishing the ballot, it will be inserted in the ballot slot of the ACM, and the ACM will automatically print voters' verifiable paper audit trail, which will contain the candidates that he voted. Also, after printing the VVPAT, the ACM will display the ballot image with the voted candidate so that the voter can compare the candidates printed in the VVPAT and the candidates displayed in the screen. After the closing of polls on May 12, 2025 at 7 p.m., the Electoral Board will close the poll in the ACM, and after closing, it will automatically print 9 copies of election returns, transmit the results to the next level of canvassing, the CCS, the central server, and the transparency servers, which includes majority political party, minority political party, 2 citizens armed servers, and for the media server. And then after transmitting the result, the ACM will print the remaining 21 copies of the election returns. For transparency, the COMELEC included another feature of in the ACM, which is the ballot review, where after all the activities in the ACM, the watchers can view all the ballots counted by the ACM by displaying each ballot. Next, please. Part of the fast track is the delivery of the 73 million ballots. Since we only have 69 million registered voters, part of the 73 million is the 69,773,653 official ballots because we print one registered voter per one ballot. And the remaining ballots will be used for the final testing and sealing, the 936,290, which is equivalent to 10 ballots per clustered precincts. This is to test the accuracy of the ACM. That is conducted 3 to 7 days before elections. Also part of the 73 million are the ballots used in all tests, such as the laboratory test, field test, mock election, the international certification entity test, and the TEC test. Also included in the 73 million ballots are the ballots used in the training of electoral boards and the ballots for the ACM demonstration nationwide. Next, please. Just to show you the contents of the ballot, at the top is the Republic of the Philippines with logo. At the left top is the instructions to voter on how to fill out the ballot. At the right side are the geographic information, the clustered precinct where this ballot will be counted, and the rectangle size space is for the signature of the electoral board. The shaded space are for the positions and number of seats to be voted for. Like for example, senator, vote for 12. Vote for not more than 12. We also have the names of the candidate, and beside the names of the candidate is a circle, a space for shading the ballot. The ballot that we will use will have the 4 security markings, the QR code, black mark, timing marks, and microtext. And absence of any of these security mark will invalidated the ballot. Next, please. Another delivery or another requirement in the fast track is the consolidation canvassing system. Consolidation canvassing system is installed in laptop and are distributed in cities, municipalities, 81 or 82 now provinces, for the national laptop, and for the data centers using the server as listed below. Next, please. This is the function of the consolidation canvassing CCS. It receives result from ACM or from the low-level CCS. For the municipal CCS, once the ACM transmitted the result, it will be received by the corresponding laptop of the city municipal CCS. And then after all the precincts included in the CCS are received, it will consolidate the result, and after consolidating the result, it will generate report and transmit to the next level of CCS. The city municipal CCS will transmit to the provincial CCS, and the provincial CCS will transmit to the national CCS. Another important requirement in the fast track is the election management system. This election management system allows import of the election data such as the geographic information, the candidates, the seats, the clustered precinct, registered voters, and others. And after processing this election data by the election management system, it will create ballot faces which will be used for the printing of ballots, configuration of the ACM so that the ACM will only count the ballots that are configured to it, and the configuration for the CCS so that the CCS will only accept the result from the ACM that correspond to the CCS. Also, it creates electoral board and board of canvassers credentials. Next, please. Next, please. In summary, this is the diagram of the entire fast track. The EMS first, after loading all the information, election data, it will create, as mentioned earlier, ballot face, ACM configuration, reports, templates, and configuration. The configuration will be loaded to the ACM. If we have 93,000 ACM, we will have 93,000 ACM configuration. The configuration for the CCS will be loaded also in all CCS. If we have 1,642 city municipalities, we will have 1,642 different configurations. And then the CCS will transmit to the next level, which is the provincial, and then the provincial will transmit to the national CCS. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jeannie Florida, for that crystal clear presentation about Fast Track. Our next presentation is the outline of the transmission process flow. The next speaker is the Information Technology Officer 3 from the Information Technology Department of the Commission on Elections. Everyone, please give a round of applause to Mr. Roderick Ilagan.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As always, it seems that my name is always been tagged with these four acronyms, the SETs, the Secure Electronics Transmission Solutions. Now I'm tasked to present to you the 2025 solutions, the 2025 transmission solutions for the May 12, 2025 elections. First, as the election network used the VPN, what we call the virtual private networks, which allows or enables the communication between different machines. In our case, the ACM, the CCS, which are the laptops, and the servers, which are located in the data centers. This also, the network also has the solutions for accessing the critical assets for monitoring and security operations. So security of the network, as we all know, the basic foundation is the CIA, not the Western version, but the ISMS version, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality, of course, it is confidential because it's private, using different certificates and authorizations. Only authorized devices are allowed to connect and authorized to connect, of course, with identity management and access control. Integrity, to preserve the authenticity of the results. We use advanced encryption system, the 256 bits, and both on the network layer and application layer. Availability, because we ensure not 100%, but always available to fully redundant network, both on the logical and physical layer. The redundancy are within the data centers component, the servers, the network components, firewall switches, both logical and physical, as we say. And we also have the site-to-site redundancy. As a best practice on ICT, we have the main in the backup data center. And to introduce the transmission media for the 2025 election, we have the most common, the APN SIM card, but not just the basic SIM card, as we know. It has the dedicated access point network, as what we call the APN, dedicated only for the election network. And the new for this election is the Starlink. Previously, we used the BSAT, the very small aperture terminal, that used the high orbit satellite infrastructure. But now, with the introduction of the new technology, as we know, the Starlink, we use our providers now will deploy the Starlink solution, a low Earth orbit satellite, and then partner with the Starlink is the Teltonica router. These two devices makes the Teltonica makes the Starlink a private network. And then we also have the fiber DSL. Just to introduce the use of the Teltonica with our election, we deploy them with the non-GIDA. So we have the GIDA and the GIDA sites. GIDA is the geographically isolated and displaced area where a telecom service is either poor or no signal. So we deployed to GIDA sites, we deployed Starlink with the use of the Route M10 Teltonica router. For non-GIDA, we use the one with the antenna because there's some telecom services that can produce or provide the election network. And for overseas, we also deployed the Route 951 together with the roaming SIM card. This is somehow the kit that will be using by our electoral board and our BOC. For our electoral board in the ACM side, the polling center side, they will have the USB modem for the SIM card, the Starlink, and the Teltonica, the Route M10. And for canvassing side, the CCS, they have, if the telecom is available, they have the Teltonica with the antenna plus the APN SIM card, and the fiber DSL, which is the wired network that use fiber optic, and the Starlink for the wireless connection. So as I've said, we have the site redundancy. We have the main as the repository of all the results, both the ACM and the consolidated canvas results. We have the backup data center as the support and redundant for the main. And after the backup, we also have the mirror site, which is situated in other government agency, the Department of Information and Communication Technology. And for transparency, as mentioned earlier, for transparency and for audit purpose, for this election, we set up the third data center, previously the transparency server. Now it is a transparency data center that houses the servers for dominant majority party, dominant minority party, those are political parties, and the citizens arm 1 and 2. So these servers receive results directly from the ACM, as mentioned earlier. And of course, we have the results website for public viewing also, available for all. And to illustrate to the basic diagram how the ACM, the CCS, and the different servers interconnect, it's through the telco exchange. The other says it meet me room. It's just the interconnect between different telcos and network solution services, just like the Starlink, the DSL, the SIM card for LTE. The telco exchange is somehow analogy to an airport terminal where the plane are the data, the transport, the flight plan is your network, and the monitoring is your what we call that in the tower in the airport for the security and monitoring of all the flight plan of all the plane that will use the entire that will be coming in and coming out to the terminal. So without the telco exchange, we cannot integrate all the network, wired or wireless. So it is basically the heart and soul of the network infrastructure. The ACM, of course, using the SIM card, it will connect to the telco exchange with the authentication. That's why we have the domain name, the dedicated domain name for the elections, for security and identity of those machines that will be connected to the network infrastructure. As mentioned earlier, the ACM will transmit using the dedicated network via the telco exchange, transmit from ACM to polling center to corresponding canvassing center. And then results also will be transmitted to the transparency data centers, as mentioned, the dominant majority, minority, and citizens arm. And then the same will be transmitted to the central servers. So from polling centers, there are 7 destinations all from the precinct results, of the precinct results. For the canvassing sites, this is for OPOB or our overseas, the same. It's the internet voting functions as analogy to an ACM. It is the precinct machine. Instead of having the actual machine, we use the online voting counting system, which is the OBCS. In short, in other terms, it's an internet voting. So the same, the voter will vote on his own device or to some countries using the ACM. That result will be transmitted to corresponding post or embassy where the CCS is situated. The results also will be transmitted to the other 6 destinations, which is the transparency and the central. So the entire infrastructure somehow is this one. Having all the CCS as the results coming from the polling centers, and then those results will be transmitted to the central servers and eventually posted to the results website. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roderick Ilagan. Here at the Commission on Elections, we take pride in quite numerous historic milestones, one of which is the monumental internet voting system. Let us learn more about this internet voting system through a presentation to be given by the Director 4 of the Office for Overseas Voting. Everyone, please welcome Director Ian Michelle Gionanga.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I guess before I start the presentation, since most of us here are coming from the diplomatic corps of our different countries as well, so I guess maybe we can get a show of hands of which among you countries are also doing overseas voting. So you're conducting elections here in the Philippines for your respective countries as well. Can you get a show of hands of who's doing it? So I cannot really see because the lights are in my face, but yeah. So I kind of saw some hands. I guess what's really new with Philippine elections now for overseas voting is, as what we've mentioned, mentioned by Bianca, is that we're doing internet voting now for the Philippines. Our Deputy Executive Director said that the Philippine elections will be 35 days, but for overseas voting, we're actually starting this Sunday already. So it's 5 days for us. On Sunday, 8 a.m. local time of our foreign service post. So that's where we'll be starting. Now, so what we'll be discussing with you guys tonight is more of an overview on what is going to be expected for internet voting for overseas. Next slide, please, for the outline. So I'll give you a brief background of the overseas voting, and then let's get to know what is OVCS, or the Overseas Online Voting and Counting System, or Internet Voting. And then we'll give you a run through on the process of enrollment, as well as the voting process, and also the support that we'll be doing or giving to our voters all over the world. So first, let's just get a brief background on the legal basis for doing overseas voting. So overseas voting in the Philippines started in the 2004 elections. It was the Overseas Absentee Voting Act of 2003, or the Republic Act 9189, that started overseas voting. And then it was amended, RA 10590, or the Overseas Voting Act of 2013. A majority of the amendments that was presented for RA 10590 is more on the registration, continuing registration for overseas voting, but it also presented a very significant amendment that has actually led for us to do internet voting now. RA 9189, as amended by 10590, provides for these modes of voting for overseas elections. In person, so it's similar to what we're doing here in the Philippines. The voters would go to our respective embassies and consulates all over the world, and they will vote there. The ballots are waiting for them there. They feed their ballots in the machines, postal or by mail. So we send the ballots to the addresses of our respective voters, and then they send it back to the embassies as well. And then when it's sent back, it's going to be batch fed by our personnel, DFA personnel abroad, and then it's going to be counted. And then 10590 mentioned as well that, or by any other means as may be determined by the Commission. So Section 28 of RA 10590 has also provided or authorized the Commission to explore other modes of voting, provided that it is efficient, reliable, and secure. And it has also mentioned the specific modes that can be explored by the Commission in implementing overseas voting. So it could be paper-based, electronic-based, internet-based technology, or such other technology, latest technology that is available. So when we started overseas voting back in 2004, it was actually manual voting. So we get a small ballot paper that we send overseas. Our voters would write the names of the candidates that will be voting, and then it evolved to automated election system, similar to what you can see now in front of the stage. They get ballots, they shade the ballots, and then they fed to the machines. So this year, we'll be doing internet voting. So that's number 3. So what is internet voting, or OVCS? OVCS stands for Online Voting and Counting System. So one, it is a highly secure system for casting votes online. And then in pre-identified countries or posts. So the Philippines currently will be doing elections in 93 foreign service posts. And the Commission has determined that we'll be doing internet voting in 77 of those posts. And of course, it can only be done, those who are allowed to vote are registered overseas voters only. So right now, we have 1.2 million registered overseas voters all over the world. They estimate that there are around 10 million Filipinos all over the world, but around 1.2 million are registered. So now, at least an overview. I mentioned that we'll be doing internet voting in 77 posts. So for Asia and the Pacific, comprising of 375,000 voters, we have 25 posts that will be doing internet voting. For the Middle East and Africas, we have 16 posts that will be doing internet voting, or 18 posts. Next is for Europe. These are the number of posts that will be doing internet voting for 140,000 voters. And for North and Latin America, these are the number of posts. So for the US, South America as well, and Canada, they'll all be doing internet voting. So the total number of voters that will be covered is around 1,220,942 voters. And that actually comprises 98% of our total number of overseas voters abroad. Because the total OVs, as I mentioned, is 1.241 million voters. Next, please. I mentioned earlier that internet voting is highly secured. So why are we saying, or how can we say that the system that will be employing these elections is secured? So first, there is a layered security architecture. So there are firewalls that are implemented that will protecting the system. There's also authentication, meaning only those who are authenticated or given permission can access the system. That includes voters as well. So you need to be registered and enrolled in order to access the system. And even if you access the system, you need specific authorization to be given permission to do any specific tasks. And of course, accounting. What's nice with digital voting is there's always an audit trail that can actually be traced back. When we end the voting, for example, we can always see and audit whatever it is that has happened during the voting process. And the voting is also encrypted. The moment that our voter would enter the voting portal, it is already encrypted, which means that even us, the commission, the provider, cannot actually see what the voter is doing. The only time that it will be decrypted is when our SBIs or our poll workers would be closing the polls on May 12, 2025 at the close of voting as well. So there's also 24/7 monitoring and detection. Actually, when enrollment started for internet voting last March 20, we already started 24/7 monitoring of the system. So there's always someone there watching if there are any anomalies or anything that is kind of suspicious or to detect any kind of threats, and then the remedy would immediately be implemented. And there's always updates and patches as well. In case that we find any vulnerability, it would be easy for us to update or to safeguard the system. And incident response and business continuity plan, the votes, once they are cast, they are actually stored in 4 different mirror servers. So it's different from the servers that was mentioned earlier. So 2 of them are located in the cloud. So it's hosted by AWS. And then 2 of them they are physical servers in different locations here in the Philippines. So they mirror each other, and you can immediately see if there would be like any change on the results or any anomaly. So we can, since we have 24/7 monitoring, we can easily check if there would be any errors or any anomaly, and it could be remedied immediately. So that's the security measure for OVCS. So let's now move on to enrollment. A lot of people were asking, is enrollment the same as registration? So no, the answer is no. Registration happens after the voting, after the election period. So for overseas voting, it has ended last September 30, 2024. Enrollment is actually a process for us to verify the identity of the voter. So we can an example would be if you're doing physical or in-person voting. When you go to the classroom, you go to the poll worker there, you present an ID, you identify yourself, you check your name from the list, and then the poll worker would give you your ballot. So that's the process that you're gonna undergo when you're doing in-person voting, the process of identification. But since we'd be doing internet voting, there's really no individual or no person that can actually check the voter's identity. So we need to enroll. So it's the system's way of identifying and verifying that someone who's trying to access the system is actually a registered voter. So that's enrollment. Mandatory enrollment would already started last March 20 and will be continuing until May 7, 2025. You can only enroll abroad, meaning outside the Philippines. So the portal is geo-locked. You cannot access it here in the Philippines. The reason is quite simple. It's overseas voting, so you have to be outside the Philippines. And then it can be done by pre-enrollment by your own device at home, internet-capable device. So you can use your cell phones, you can use your tablets, you have your personal computers or your Macs, your laptops. And you can actually do it as well in the voting kiosks that will be provided in our embassies and consulates abroad. So for those people that are still not confident with doing the system at home, or they have their own, what they call this, difficulties accessing the internet, or they're just not happy doing it alone at home because they're used to going to the embassies during voting. So they can still do that because we will be providing laptops and kiosks at the embassies and consulates for those people to access as well. So this is the steps that we'd be undertaking when we do enrollment. The first is, of course, you have to sign up. So this is the actual link that we'll have to access to enroll. You can try accessing it, but it will show an error because we're in the Philippines. After accessing the link, you'll have to input your username, which will be your email address or your mobile number. And then you have to choose which embassy or consulate you are registered and the country that you are also registered in. Because we have different posts that have different countries under their jurisdiction. Like for example, Washington, it has also the island states that are under their jurisdiction other than the US. So they have to choose the embassy or consulate as well as the country they're in. After that, they will receive an OTP or a one-time password. They'll have to input the OTP or one-time password on that screen. And after that one, they'll have to capture their IDs. So this one, it will prompt the voter to have their IDs ready. Preferably, they should use their passports. But we'll also be accepting Seafarer's Book, PhilSys ID, IBP ID or the Integrated Bar of the Philippines ID, and the Philippine Driver's License. So all Philippine IDs are allowed to be accepted by the system. So once you have your IDs, the system will prompt to capture the photo of your ID. So in the picture, we just blurred the passport, but it's a passport that they captured. So yeah, the system will just take a photo of the ID. We advise the voters to be careful that there's no glare or there's proper lighting because the system might not accept it if it's blurred or if it's not clear. But after taking the photo of your ID, the next is to take a selfie. The purpose of this one is the system will compare the face in the ID that you presented to the... So once the system is finished, the system will automatically take the biometric information that was taken from your ID, specifically your first name, middle name, last name, ID number, and date of birth. So this is not editable, which means that it is the system that has taken this information from your ID. The reason for this is to make sure that no person would imitate a voter as well. There are instances wherein the system might capture the wrong spelling of the ID, so we just advise the voter to recapture the ID again until you get the correct spelling. But once it is done, the voters actually enrolled already if it's successful. So the first message that you can see is if it's successful, it would say congratulations, you're already enrolled for the 2025 elections. If it's not successful, the next message, the one message would be manual verification required. So these are instances wherein we realize that there could be certain voters that may have changed their names, or especially for the women, if ever they get married, so they would take the surnames of their husbands. So if they registered when they were still single and registered using their maiden name, there is a possibility that now they have an ID that has a different surname, so they would undergo manual verification. So it also includes individuals, because in the Philippines we have a lot of juniors or seniors in our name. So some of the IDs, they have the period in the IDs, or some have not. So those different types of spellings is being captured by the system. So if it does not match, it will undergo manual verification. Now lastly, if the system does not actually find any similarity in the voter database for overseas voting, you'll automatically be disapproved. So once you are already enrolled, assuming that it's been successful, the next step is, of course, voting. So as I mentioned, voting will start on Sunday, but actually the system is open now for those who have already enrolled. They can actually do test voting. The rationale for that is we understand that this is a new system, so we want our voters to be familiarized or to familiarize themselves with the process, even though if it's not elections yet, so they can actually test vote so that they would already know the location of the names of the candidates, would they be voting. So they can actually start test voting now, and it will end on Saturday, 11:59 p.m. because on Sunday, official or actual voting would have already started. Now for the actual voting URL, it will be provided to the email address or the mobile numbers of the voter when they enrolled. They will also be using the same credentials. So the email address or the mobile number that they used to enroll, that's the same thing, the username that they'll be using, and the password that they also inputted. An OTP will also be sent to the voter once they enroll, and as I mentioned, test voting site will no longer be available when the actual elections would start on Sunday. So, this is how the login portal would look like. As I mentioned, there's a space for the voter to put in their email address or mobile number, that's their username, and then the password. And once they've inputted those details, an OTP will be sent to the voter, and then he will have to input the OTP in the space that is provided. And once you have already successfully logged in, they will see this screen, which is the ballots that will be available for them. As I mentioned, for now, the only ballots that the voters will see is the test voting ballot. But once test voting is done, the voter will no longer see that option. What they will be only able to see is the general elections button. So for now, general elections is also not yet available because voting will start on Sunday. So once here, the voter will have to press that button, click to vote. And if they click to vote, the first thing that they would see is the instructions on how to vote. They have to select their options, review their ballots, and then cast their ballots after. Now, after this page, what they will actually see is the digital ballots already. So the digital ballots is quite similar with the paper ballots that you will be handing out later on. So it shows the names of the candidates for senators as well as the party lists. So what we are voting for in overseas voting are only for the national positions. So for the midterm elections, it's just the senators and the party list. For the 2028 elections, it will also include the president and vice president. So the voter will have to choose for senators 12 and then for party list just 1. Now what's also a good feature of internet voting is that there is no more room for error for the voter. Because for the paper ballot, there's still human error that can be encountered. So there's a possibility for the voter to have miscounted that they already voted for 12 and then they shaded another candidate. So accidentally, they may have voted for 13. In that instance, the vote will no longer be counted. But for internet voting, once the voter already chosen 12 candidates, the system will no longer allow him to select another candidate. So what he has to do is to deselect 1 or 2 of the candidates that he has previously selected and then change that vote. So the voter can opt to vote 12, less than 12, or even 0, and then cast their votes afterwards. So once the voter has already selected all the candidates that he has chosen for senators and party lists, then the voters can review their ballots before submission. So there's actually a next page that shows the list or the names of the candidates that the voter has opted to vote. At this stage, the voter can still opt to change the vote. So they can still press back, and then if ever that he has changed her mind, then he or she can still change the vote at this point. But after reviewing this page and the voters already decided, okay, I have decided these 12 candidates for senators and this 1 party list is my final choice, then the voter can actually now press the submit or cast button, and then that's the time that the ballot has already been cast. After that casting the ballot, the voter will be led to the screen, the vote confirmation screen. He will be able to see the ballot ID. It's a hash of the ballot ID. The voter can copy-paste that hash, and you can actually trace, using that hash, where the ballot is located at any given time. So while there's still, during the voting period, the voter will see that the ballot is actually in the digital ballot box. But after counting, they will be able to see that the vote has already been counted. But technically, what they'll be actually seeing is a random numbers and letters, which is the hash of the ballot. So unless they are quite adept as well with this kind of language, then they'd be able to read it fully. But they'd be needing a system as well to be able to fully read this different hash. So once the vote, so that's actually the whole process of voting. It's quite simple and very easy and very efficient. And it's an initiative that our commission and bank has actually initiated to benefit our various overseas voters abroad. So in addition to voting, we will be also providing a lot of support to our various voters abroad. So we have launched this info-ov website. You can actually see it. for all the frequently asked questions that is concerning internet voting. There is a live chat bot that is also available in the website. So the voters can just click the chat bot and then they can, so initially it will just be led to an AI chatbot, but if the AI cannot answer the questions, then it will be sent to a personnel from the Office for Overseas Voting to answer the queries of our voters abroad. Since we've already started internet voting, the enrollment as well, we have actually received a lot of good feedback and testimonials from our voters. So this one from Abu Dhabi, UAE, have said that they've already registered and it is her first time to vote at age 42. And I guess just really excited doing it with internet voting. One voter also lamented that tapos na po, it means ended already, so it means that he's already enrolled. And yeah, after enrolling, he already tried test voting. So I guess what he wanted to say, it was quite easy for him to do that. So here, a voter said that it took him like less than 10 minutes to complete the system, to be processed and to be enrolled. So they're saying that they just need a stable internet connection or a good gadget to have a better experience as well of doing the system. Another voters also commented that enrolling online was quick and easy. So an overseas voter is really convenient and saves a lot of time for them. And lastly, one voters also mentioned that successfully enrolled and completed test voting. So this one, she was from Saudi Arabia. So these are some of just the experiences of some of our voters during the enrollment process. So later on, if you have questions as well, we'd be gladly answer them. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Ian Michelle Giunaga, for that very informative discussion on the internet voting system for overseas voting. As mentioned by Director Giunaga, we have remaining 5 days before the start of the overseas voting. But do you also know that we have remaining 188 days before another elections this 2025? And that is the Ballroom parliamentary elections. The Ballroom parliamentary elections is another landmark milestone carrying immense significance for regional stability and peace process in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. To give an overview of Bangsamoro parliamentary elections, let me call the Director for Head Special Task Force of the 2025 NLE in the Ballroom parliamentary elections. Please give a round of applause to Director Jose Nick Mendros.
Chairman George Erwin M. Garcia, honorable members of the Commission in Bank, Excellencies, members of the diplomatic community, fellow workers in the government, pleasant evening to all of you. I will be presenting the overview of the October 13, 2025 BARM parliamentary elections. In a shared desire to achieve everlasting peace in Bangsamoro, in the island of Mindanao, and in the whole country, one of the main features of the peace agreement between the government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front is the conduct of the first ever BARM parliamentary elections, which would pave the way for self-governance in that part of the country, working within the context and dynamics of the national government. Accordingly, Republic Act number 11054, also known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, was passed into law. Using the same as legal basis, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority passed into law Bangsamoro Autonomy Act number 35, otherwise known as the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, which prescribe the structural, functional, and procedural principles in the conduct of the elections in the BARM. In turn, the Commission on Elections promulgated Resolution number 10984, the rules and regulations implementing the Bangsamoro Election Code. The original plan actually is for the conduct of the BARM parliamentary elections to be synchronized with the May 12, 2025 national and local elections. However, compelled by the supervening factors, one of which is the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Province Absolo versus Executive Secretary et al., declaring the province of Sulu to be excluded from the Bangsamoro, putting into questions on how to allocate the 7 seats allotted for Sulu, the Philippine Congress declared the reseating of the parliamentary elections by virtue of Republic Act 121/23. Next slide. This time, the Bangsamoro parliamentary elections will be held on October 13, 2025, and the term of office of the newly elected ministers shall commence at noon of October 30, 2025. The next parliamentary elections will be this time synchronized with the May 2028 presidential elections. Next slide. For proper perspective, here is the breakdown of the provinces, cities, and municipalities under the Bangsamoro. Province of Basilan with 1 city and 11 municipalities. The province of Lanao del Sur with 1 city and 39 municipalities. The province of Maguindanao del Norte with 1 city and 12 municipalities. Province of Maguindanao del Sur with 24 municipalities. Tawi-Tawi with 11 municipalities, and a special geographic area with 8 municipalities. Next slide. As shown in this slide, BARM has 2,295,360 registered voters, voting in 3,465 clustered precincts. As shown in this slide, you will see the breakdown by province of the registered voter in BARM. Next. The October 13, 2025 BARM parliamentary elections will be fully automated. The COMELEC will be using the same voting machines and systems of transmission that will be used in the upcoming May 12, 2025 national and local elections. A total of 3,465 voting machines will be allocated, plus contingency machines which will be strategically pre-positioned in its provinces. For transmission, all voting centers will be using Starlink devices in the transmission of election result. The slide as shown will depict the sequence of transmission of the result up to the proclamation. First, the voting machines at each cluster precincts after voting will transmit the result to the city or municipal board of canvassers. After consolidations at the city and municipal board of canvassers, the same will transmit the result to the provincial board of canvassers. At this level, the provincial board of canvassers, after consolidation of the results, will now proclaim the winner of the legislative district. Then after, at the level of the provincial canvassers, the results will be transmitted to the regional board of canvassers, which will then proclaim the winning regional political party. As found in the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, next slide, the Bangsamoro Parliament is composed of 80 members, distributed as follows. Out of the 80 seats, 32 slots is allocated to district representatives. 40 of the 80 is allocated for regional political parties, and 7 seats is allocated to sectoral representative. Next. In the case of regional parliamentary political party, only those who will garner at least 4% of the total valid vote cast are entitled to the seats in the parliament. The allocation will be proportional to the actual votes earned by each party in the elections. For sectoral representative and based on the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, no elections will be conducted for them. However, all the registered and duly accredited sectoral party have to agree among themselves who to nominate to the parliament. For example, all sectoral party in the women's sector have to come to an agreement as to their representative. The task force have already coordinated with the concerned ministries of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority for the rules and regulation governing such nomination process. Next. Next. As of today, As of today, the Comelec and Bank has already approved the calendar of activities, the timelines of activities, the registration of sectoral parties, and the budget for the October 13 BARM parliamentary elections. Thus, as you will see, parallel with the preparation for the upcoming May 12, 2025 elections, all of these brilliant directors of Comelec and employees you see here are performing multiple functions, preparing for the May 12 and preparing for October 13, 2025 BARM parliamentary elections. It is challenging for Comelec, but with the visionary and steady leadership of Chairman George Erwin Garcia and the honorable members of the Commission in Bank, we can fully assure you, ladies and gentlemen, and the people in Mindanao, that your Comelec will ensure that both elections will be conducted successfully, peacefully, and orderly. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Thank you, Director Nick Mendros, for giving us information on how the parliamentary election plays a crucial role in the Bangsamoro region. At this point, let us get inspired with a message to be given by the tireless advocate of Philippine democracy and electoral integrity, no other than the chairperson of the Commission on Elections. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Chairman George Erwin N. Garcia.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Commission and Bank, the senior staff of the Commission headed by the Executive Director, the members of the Citizens Arm of the Commission election, the representatives from the dominant majority party and the dominant minority party, Lakas and the Nationalista Party, and to all of you. Maraming salamat po and good evening. One thing that the Comelec is very proud of is that we value so much the members of our vulnerable sectors. That's the reason why she's here. She had been here since the time that we started the program because we would like to prove to each and everyone that the heart of the Commission belongs to the members of the vulnerable sector of our society, of our electorate. Kindly please understand that of the 68,542,564 registered voters in the entire country, there are about 11 to 12 million senior citizens. There are about 800,000 members of the indigenous peoples, 540,000 members of the PWDs, 68,000 members of persons deprived of liberty. Yes, we are even allowing those who are incarcerated, those who have no final judgment yet, to vote in Philippine elections. They can vote not only for national positions, but in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court. In the latest decision, they can likewise vote for local position. And that goes to show that the Commission is extending our invitation to all of these individuals to vote on election day. We will not leave anybody without a ballot come election day. And that is our commitment. That is our commitment to Philippine democracy. However, I would like to respectfully inform Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that your Philippine Commission election recently received 4 international awards. The most important award of which is the so-called the Commission of the Year Award. That's actually the most important award to be received by an election management body. Maybe your commission election is doing something right. Why the different election management bodies conferred to the commission election that particular singular award, the Internet Commission of the Year. And likewise, for your information, ladies and gentlemen, your commission election was elected most recently as the vice chairperson of the Association of World Electoral Bodies. And likewise, for the first time in our history, elected as the vice chairperson of the AAEA, the Association of Asian Electoral Authorities. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, for the year 2027 to 2028. The COMELEC will be the chairperson of both international electoral bodies. And that is to us very, very important. That is a sign, that is an indication that the trust and confidence of international bodies, election management bodies around the world is being given to the Commission on Election. And for information, as mentioned earlier by our director, we have a lot of problems likewise for purposes of the Bangsamoro and parliamentary election. And would like to thank the members of the European Union. We have to understand that the members of that the EU will be sending a 200-strong delegation for the 2025 national and local election. Japan will be likewise sending a delegation. India will be sending a delegation. And such other countries, 50 other representatives from other countries will likewise be joining the observer mission to be sent to the Philippines. We welcome all of you here in our country. We wanted everyone to monitor, to observe the conduct of our election. It's not really hassle-free or without any problem. The conduct of election is always an experience first. We have to understand that there are a lot of scenarios and problems that the Philippine Commission election is facing. But because all our people, from the main office of the Commission to the field offices of the Commission, are so experienced, they had been there in the conduct of the election ever since. And that's the reason why problems can be set aside. Election will proceed as is, as we committed to the Filipino people. For your information, likewise, for the Bangsamoro, we have to understand from the members of the European Union, you have to understand also that although the election in the Bangsamoro was postponed and reset to October 13, that there is a need for a legislation to reapportion the 7 seats originally allocated to the province of Sulu. And it is not for the Philippine Commission on Election to do that. It is not for the Philippine Congress to do that. It is for the Parliament of the Bangsamoro to act on that important, urgent matter because the Philippine COMELEC will proceed with the election regardless as to whether it's 80 or 72 parliamentary seats. And you have to also understand that because of the multi-party nature of our political parties in the Philippines, you have to understand that we accredited several political parties to participate in the parliamentary election of the region. And about 1,500 filed a petition before the Commission on Election for the accreditation as sectoral organizations to compete for the 8 seats only, for the sectoral seats in the parliament. That is how democracy works, indeed, in the Philippines. So, again, would like to express our deepest appreciation to all of you. Thank you so much for supporting the Philippine Commission on Election. Thank you so much for supporting and believing in Philippine democracy. It is always a shared experiences. What we experience from and we observe from your elections whenever we are sending delegates or observers, we to a certain extent adopt some of your systems, some of your experiences in the same manner that perhaps you can likewise adopt some of ours. An election is always an exercise of democracy to the highest level. An election is always something to be proud of. And that's the reason why the Filipino people will always be proud of the election that the Commission is to conduct by 2025. This is preparatory to the 2028 election. We have been saying we would like to enhance Philippine democracy through the use of modern technology. But we cannot and we will not compromise the integrity of the election simply because we wanted an expeditious results and proclamation. Still, the number one consideration is that we must be able to find out the mandate of the people because that is what democracy is all about. Be able to allow the people to vote, and to be able to count the votes properly and to proclaim the rightful winner after the ballots are counted. That is our commitment to everyone. Again, thank you very much. Maraming salamat po. Magandang gabi. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Chairman George Erwin M. Garcia, for that strong message. And thank you for leading a commission which continues to uphold the values of transparency, credibility, and inclusivity, ensuring that the voice of every Filipino is heard. At this juncture, allow us to show you how our innovations can strengthen the integrity of our democratic system and provide a smoother, fuller, and more accessible voting experience to our Filipino electorate. For the ACM demonstration and voting experience, I would like to call the Director 4 of the Education and Information Department of the Commission on Elections. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director John Rex Lojanco.
Excellencies, Your Honors, good evening. Once more, we present to you the automated counting machines right before you. We know you're having your dinner, so right now, our priority is to ensure that you'll be having your dinner. But immediately after, we encourage you our staff will be approaching your table, handing out to you the ballot so that you could try for yourself the automated counting machine. Then again, if you'd see the ACM right before you, it has been tested, certified by international certification entity, and tested in most parts of the country. Chairman Garcia himself had brought these machines throughout the far-flung areas from the north down to the south. It's been tested throughout the number of climes within the country, and then tested by thousands of Filipinos to ensure that most of the Filipinos will be able to vote properly and familiar with the system. So we introduce to you the ACM, and we ask that while you're having your dinner, our staff, immediately after your dinner, our staff will be approaching you and leading you to the ACM for you to be able to experience yourself. I give the floor now to so that there will be a little serenade while you're having your dinners. That's our priority for now. So, gentlemen, please. Okay, while the musicians are setting up, another feature that we intend to showcase to you about the ACMs that before, I think Director Jeannie had already highlighted this. 6 servers had been prepared which will be able to simultaneously receive all the election results coming from the ACM. Our partners from the NAMFREL, the PPCRV, our partners from the media, as well as the dominant majority party and the dominant minority party sitting there at the back will be having their own servers. In fact, the 6th server will be that of the COMELEC, which will be reflected to that of the Department of the Information and Communications Technology. And there's more. COMELEC, in our transparency pursuit, had committed that all results coming from the precincts will be uploaded real-time in an election results website. Therefore, this impacts a lot. While the watchers and the electoral boards on the ground will be having their printed receipts, our public, the citizens, can view from themselves through the public website the results which have been transmitted from the ACMs. So there's multiple layers of audit. Not only that, aside from the servers which will be manned by the different parties, the dominant majority party from the media to everybody else, we will be able to showcase that indeed the results from the machines, that printed on paper, and those transmitted in the servers are exactly the same. And all of this will be subjected to audits. All of this will be submitted finally, and I think this had not been mentioned, to random manual audit. And what is the random manual audit? At the end of the elections, a group or a committee will be able to select by random through an application one ballot box from each municipality and from each city. These ballot boxes will be brought to Manila. Initially, their electronic results will be disregarded. What will happen next is that the Random Manual Audit Committee will be going to the ballots themselves. They will manually count the results, the votes in the ballots, and compare their tallies to that of the printed paper, compare those tallies to that of the transmitted to the servers, and especially that officially transmitted to the several boards of canvassers. So as you could see, there are multiple layers of audit and transparency. This is our way, the Philippine way of showcasing that the accuracy of the results from the precincts down to the national boards. And as proof of those efforts and compliance with our existing laws, one thing that we have, the Commission on Elections have, for all the elections we had conducted since 2010 down to the 2022 national elections. We have this process of election protest. And as far as I can remember, since 2010, there have been almost 3,000 electoral protest cases lodged from the regional trial courts up to the House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal, the Senate Electoral Tribunal, and the Presidential Electoral Tribunal. And if you'll ask us, and Chairman Garcia has been emphasizing this again and again, how many precinct and city and municipal election results have been reversed based on the manual count? And the answer is 0. And why is that? Because the Random Manual Committee had again and again proven that the accuracy of the system employed since 2010 down to the 2022 national and local elections had been 99.97% accurate across the board. And not only that, 3,000 election cases from the lower courts. Out of these 3,000 cases, almost 1,000 cases went up to the Philippine Supreme Court. And you ask us, how many of those 1,000 cases were reversed by the highest court of the land insofar as the election results is concerned? The answer again, 0. And that is why since 2010 up to the 2022 national and local elections, COMELEC has been standing pat on the system that we have adopted, fully compliant with the law, and enjoying 2 very important surveys. First, 92% confidence by the citizens, which had been conducted immediately after the 2022 national and local elections, and 97% confidence from the Filipino voters that they want automated elections in the succeeding national and local elections thereafter. And of course, based on this, COMELEC will pursue, as we had done today, innovations across the board with all the systems that we'll be employing from the 2025 elections, especially down to the 2028 national and local elections. And now that you're having your dinner, I hand over the floor to our musicians. Sir, please take the floor away. Thank you very much.
Yes. test, one. Mic low.
Check.
Test.
One, two, sound.
Well, I think I'm going out of my head. Yes, I think I'm going out of my head. Over you, over you. I want you to want me. I need you so badly, I can't think of anything but you. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You feel like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much.
Excellent, our guests. One of the best and brightest on election.
The work of the diplomatic corps represents more than just diplomatic service. It is a reflection of our shared commitment to democracy. As consuls, you are the bridge that connects nations. Democracy thrives not just on laws and institutions, but on the collective responsibility of leaders and stakeholders. Together, we ensure that the 2025 elections are a testament to the strength of our democracy, where every Filipino's vote is sacred, their voice is heard, and our nation's democratic foundations remain unshaken. Good evening, everyone, and maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Ernesto Ferdinand P. Maceda Jr. for that profound message. And with that, we conclude our program. But we'd also like to remind everyone that you may continue with checking our ballots and trying our ACM or our machines. Once again, to your excellencies, our distinguished guests, we thank you for gracing this night's event and for always supporting and trusting the Commission on Elections. Have a good night, everyone.